Name something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy. I'll go first. The reason I'm afraid of heights is not the height. It's because something in me is always like, jump, head first, jump. That sounds crazy. I shouldn't. Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
Alright, so I never really told a lot of people this story. Man, one day I had a dream. It was about a couple months after my daddy died. My dad was the closest person to me ever. So a couple months after my daddy died, I was sleeping. I had a dream. Me and my boys were walking through the mall. It's regular, it seemed like a regular day. But this particular day was a lot of people in the mall, like a lot of people. So I'm walking, you see people walking through, and I look, and I just so happen to look, and I catch him in the eye, and I see my daddy. I'm like, oh shit, hey daddy, what up? I go walking towards him, like, come here, daddy, happy to see him. I ain't seen him in a long time. I'm like 16. So I ain't seen him in a long time, He died, of course I ain't seen him in a long time. But I'm walking towards him, he look at me like, how the fuck you see me? That's the look he had on his face. So I'm like, daddy, come here. So I'm trying to get closer to him. So he turned around and start walking off fast, like real fast. So I'm walking behind him, trying to speed walk him. But this time, like, he keep looking back, like, to see if I'm closer. But when he looking back, he like, damn, you're not supposed to see me. So mind you, he had on all blue. Jeans, a jean hat, blue jean jacket, blue jeans, all that. I don't know why. So I'm getting closer and closer, like I'm bumping people, pushing people out the way. But I'm really getting blowed and like sag. I'm like, damn, why he running from me? You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, why he running from me? So I get like this close to him. I reach out to grab him. When I reach out to grab him, I just woke up. I'm like, damn, what the fuck? When I woke up, I like to sleep in my room all dark. I like my room all dark. When I woke up, I looked on the side of my bed, and it was just this black figure on the side of my bed. Like, it was just there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't no shape, no prayer. It was just a black figure just standing there, the side of my bed. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm scared. You know what I'm saying? I'm scared as hell. So I jump back under the covers, like, oh shit. So I'm shaking, so I'm scared under the covers. I'm crying and all. So I'm like, after probably about 5-10 minutes of staring on the covers, I finally get up with no courage. I'm like, man, you know what? Fuck it. If I die, I die. You know what I'm saying? Fuck it. Whatever this is, you gonna have to fuck that shit. You got to do what you do. So I jump under the cover. Whoosh. Oh, yeah, what up? And the shit was gone. And I'm like, what the fuck? And bro, I walked out to the front room. I just broke down crying. Like, I'm talking about boo-hoo crying, loud, screaming. Mama, my mom was in her room. So she came out there, what's wrong, babe? What's wrong? And I'm boo-hoo crying. I'm telling her, like, man, mama, I seen him, mama. I swear I seen my daddy. Mama. And I'm like, well, you know what I'm saying? What does it mean? A couple years later, so a dude told me, he was like, that was death. You know what I'm saying? And your daddy knew if you would have went with him and touched him, then, your ass wouldn't have woke up from that dream. And death was next to you, ready to take you because he thought you were going to get him. Man, that shit crazy, bro.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
I got one. I was about 17 years old. I had a stepfather that passed away, and he was really cool. But I was a teenager. I wasn't that nice to him, but I loved him. But anyway, he was already passed for about like a year. One day I was sleeping in my bed. I mean, knocked out sleep, and like I woke up and I heard the doorbell. Oh, cause I woke up because I heard a doorbell ring. So I woke up to go get the doorbell. So I answered the door, and it was my daddy, the one that passed. So me, I was excited as hell. At this time, I already had put two and two together, knowing that this had to be a dream. So daddy was doing a little visitation or whatever. Fast forward, my mom came out the back or whatever, and them two was talking, and I was like, "Yay, what you doing here?" He was like, "I'm coming to get you." I was like, "Okay, cool, shoot. Let me go get my shoes. Let me go get my shoes, cause I'm ready to go. We going fishing. What we doing? Cause I love fishing." So he was like, "Yeah, go get your shoes." I couldn't see his eyes. I could not see his eyes. I just knew his face and his body. I could not see his eyes. And then I ran into my room, and I just saw myself sleeping. Like, I saw myself, like, bitch, everything that I had on that day. Like, the same position that I was sleeping in. Like I literally was this to myself, looking down on me. I was looking down on me. Oh, Jesus. When I told you I jumped up so fast off that sleep, baby. Oh. I called my grandmother. Oh my God, I was praying. I had to ask her, what that mean? What that mean? What that mean? What that mean? And then later on, I found out that I had astroplaned and I guess was getting a visitation from my dad, who was actually coming to get me. And if I took the invitation and actually went with him, I would have been sleeping permanently. So there's that. I have a couple more stories too. Oh God.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
All right now, you asked for this, so don't judge me, okay? Don't judge me. But let y'all in on a little secret. I am a crotch watcher. I watch crotches, women, men, and some of y'all look funny. Some of y'all look like, you know what I'm saying, them little bit drawers this wide. Some of y'all look like y'all can wear them, and some of y'all look like you can't. Some men look like they got a big one, and then them balls just be doing the most. I watch all that shit. Some of y'all need to get it together. It's a little Deuce Bigelow European gigolo down there. Hey. And sometimes people think it's a camel toe. It be her stomach. I watch all that. I'm just saying, don't judge me. You do it too.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
I don't want to be here no more because life is hard and I'm just over it. But I need to be here because I have kids and can't nobody love them like I do.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
The real pandemic is just beginning.
Hear me out.
Basically, there's a scientific theory that's been proven in cats, rabbits, chickens, and rats. Spoiler alert, it's never been tested in humans. Until meow. The theory goes that viruses want to stay alive, right? Well, in a vaccinated person, this becomes really hard to do, right? This means that the virus has to replicate and create a lot more of itself a lot faster in order to survive in a vaccinated person. Which is why the amount of breakthrough cases we're seeing is very alarming. Basically, this is proof that we have something called an imperfect vaccine, which, as I mentioned before, have only been studied in a few types of animals. Now, this is where things get very interesting. These studies showed that imperfect vaccines can lead to mutations which create overwhelming viral loads for the unvaccinated. 100% of the animals that were unvaccinated in these studies died. 100%.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
That when I call time of death on a patient, something lingers. Been doing this too long, saw too many things, especially those who either have a tumultuous relationship with their family or have no family at the bedside, especially in the last year and a half with COVID, basically shutting down long-term care facilities for visitors and family members. I call time of death something lingers. Mom's side Slovak, dad's is German, Russian. There's a lot of cultural history there, a lot of cultural stories I grew up on. And seeing way too many things after almost a decade of nursing that I can't explain. I mean, I was raised Roman Catholic, walked away from the church because of the hypocrisy when I was very, very young. But I've also made my peace with God and everything else out there. And yeah, I have a window crank as part of my nursing gear in my handbag so that I can open the window. And I've had quite a few looks, especially after finishing up and helping my CNA clean up the body, and then I crank the window, especially while we're in the middle of doing that post-mortem care. And yeah, I don't care about the looks because I grew up next to one of the most haunted houses in Florida back in the early 90s when I was a very small bean. It was built on actual Indian burial ground that no one knew about. There was a lot of news stories about it. I remember that family, remember being in the house, remember a lot of shit. So, yeah, think I'm crazy, but I've also seen a brain dead Mets breast cancer patient that sat up after being non-responsive for a week, looked in the corner of the room, smiled, and said, "I've been waiting for you," and then flatlined on me. So there's that.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
We have more to learn from kids than kids have to learn from us. Kids come into the world like already knowing how to be happy and how to live life. And then we act like we have to teach them, we have to enlighten them. And then we just teach them how to be unhappy like we are.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
Every room I walk into, I have an exit strategy and a plan to incapacitate or terminate every single person in that room.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
I'm neurodivergent and I'm from New York City, and I've walked around and I've seen people at very different levels of, I guess you could call, like, cognitive hold on themselves. Like, I've seen people going down the street, like, literally tweaking. I've seen people screaming at people on the train. I've seen people, like, all over. And every time I see someone like that, the people around me are like, "Oh my gosh, that person's crazy." And I always think to myself, like, no, I get it. Like, if I had just a little bit less self-restraint, I could see myself doing that. And truly, I feel like everyone would do that if they didn't have that social pressure restraint keeping them down. Like, I don't know, it might just be me, but I feel like if I just let myself go, I would easily be walking down the street, screaming song lyrics out loud, like ticking in public, like throwing things sometimes, just yelling. Like, I don't know. It might just, it's not just me. It can't.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
That millions and millions of people, particularly older people, have irreversible brain damage caused by lead poisoning.
I think that one thing a lot of particularly young people tend to forget is that there's a reason why when you go to the gas station, it always says unleaded fuel.
Lead used to be in everything. It was in gasoline, which inevitably ended up in the air. It was in pipes that people got their drinking water from. It was in ceramics. It was in paint that could peel off and tasted sweet, and children would eat it. And unfortunately, the ramifications of that were that a ton of people ended up getting parts of their brain damaged that are important for things like decision making and anger management and empathy. And don't tolerate abuse or anything, but think about that next time a boomer screams at you.
Something that crosses your mind, but you don't say it out loud because if you did, people would think you're crazy.
That I want to go back to the beginning of the pandemic and that I miss just everything being shut down. I know it sounds terrible. Like, obviously I don't want people to be sick and like be dying and stuff. But I don't want to go anywhere and I don't want to do anything. But I also get FOMO from other people doing stuff. So I don't want anybody else to do anything either.